right, welcome to the Wholesalenation podcast. I'm Undrea King.
And I'm Andy Speed.
And welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the show. It's been a couple of weeks or so since we recorded our last episode, so we're excited to be back on the ones and twos today. Since the last time we talked, we've of course been trucking along here in our wholesale business. As far as any new things that are happening, anything new that's been happening, Andy?
This month is 2 years for our meetup, so been prepping for that. New things in the wholesale business. Just got a new acquisitions person. I don't know how long it's been, but took one of our dispo agents, moved him to acquisitions, and we've got the new dispo junior starting in next week?
Yeah, he'll be starting next week, and that's been a game changer for us. We brought on Aaron as our dispo agent. We call it dispo junior or whatever we want to call it. But for those who don't know, of course, we talked about it in a previous episode. We started buying over the phone, and so basically he goes out and gets pictures of the properties. He shows the buyers, he builds the buyers list and things like that. And he's done such a good job that he was able to move up to acquisitions position. Right. And so he's excited about that. We're excited about that. We have 3 acquisitions now. And so it causes us to have to hire a new disposition agent. So we're excited about him. He's been in sales for a while, and I think he'll be a good addition to the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so, far as, the wholesale business, like I said, I'm definitely excited about that. This week has been a strong week for us. I think so far we're at about 6 contracts, maybe 7. There's 2 that may be questionable. So we'll have to take a look at them and make sure that they're going to stick. But so far 7 contracts this week, which is crazy. All right. So we want to keep that momentum going into January. So hopefully everyone is on your January goals. Sticking with them. You hadn't fell short because we're just this is just February. So you got 11 months to get this thing going.
Yeah. What do we have? Tomorrow's the 1st?
Tomorrow is the 1st, and February is a short month. So guess what?
It's already March.
It's already March, right? So next thing you know, we're going to be 2021. So time to get on it. And so that brings us, kind of to today's topic. So today we're actually going to be talking about building a buyer's list, right? And so for most new wholesalers, Andy, would you say that, when they're selling their properties, do you feel like they're maximizing their top profit?
No. Newer wholesalers, no. I think, you've been doing this for year and a half or so when we partnered up,
right?
Maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
Somewhere right in there, either way. Mm-hmm. Then once we were able to fire you from dispositions and we had somebody just focusing on dispositions, we saw a 3% increase in our, after repair value sale number, which is pretty substantial, being that we were already, on the upper echelon of the wholesaling market here in Houston, as far as, experience and whatnot. So that's pretty substantial just right there. Just hiring somebody to be dedicated to it was a 3% increase. And, we've only gotten better from there as we've built relationships with buyers, et cetera. Yeah. But, it takes experience.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I'd say, for me at that point, I'd been doing it for a while. And when we hired somebody, I would say a lot of that 3% also came from me, disconnecting from it. A lot of times people will come to me and try to get the discount. And because I have so many other things that I need to do, because I need to market, I'm a solopreneur, just like I would assume a lot of people listening are. If someone offers maybe $3,000 or $4,000 cheaper than what you thought you can get for it, you're like, take it, right? Yeah, so I can move on to the next one.
Get something else done. Exactly.
Right. So I can get on to the next thing.
So at what point would you say that it's you should start building your buyers list?
And we're going to talk about that today, right? I think it needs to start in the beginning, right? You need to do something to at least attract buyers so you can understand what's going on in the market, for one thing, right? And so I can speak from my experience. I started in the beginning building my buyers. The issue that I found out is that my buyers were not buyers. Right. Because all I did was put them on at the time. It was Craigslist.
What do you mean they weren't buyers?
Meaning that they were just people jumping on my list that I had never talked to before in my life. And we're going to talk about that. I'd never had a conversation with them. I thought that if I just blast them out of property, that they were just going to all jump over it. jump on it. And that didn't really happen. And it wasn't until I actually started getting properties that I was able to start building a buyer's list, right? And they saw my property and they came out and they, maybe they wanted to purchase it. That's when I really started seeing like real buyers. Right. And we'll talk about some things how I found them. But yeah, that's when I started seeing real buyers. Okay. But if you're just getting started, I mean, there's certain ways to be able to help you out with that. You can lean on wholesalers or other people in your market that may have a bigger buyers list that can take some of that stress off. Because I think that's probably the main thing that people run into when they first get started is the stress of being able to sell the property. Right. I would say that also causes people not to even contract the property is because they don't know if they can sell it. Right.
I think there's two extremes there.
Yeah.
Either somebody's afraid to lock it up or they're locking up everything.
Right. But we've run across that, right? So we had a wholesaler it was actually that Wheatbridge property, right? So we had a wholesaler that had went to the seller and he was basically just too high, right? And had he got the deal, if this deal turned out to be like a $30,000 deal, but had he got it at his price, it would have been like a $50,000 deal. But he wasn't comfortable. This is one of his first deals, one of their first deals. Wasn't comfortable putting because he wanted to be a man of his word, right? So if I put my name on this contract and I tell you that I'm gonna buy this property and I'm going to be able to, stand up to my word, then I want to be able to look you in the eye and say, yes, right, I'm going to be able to do this. And so what happened was he was going too high for that reason, right? And so if you know where your buyers are buying, you know where the contract, you can feel comfortable. You can feel confident when you get the property under contract.
Gotcha. Right? Absolutely. So my experience jumping in, building a buyer's list, I was a flipper. So I thought for me, wholesaling was a byproduct of bad marketing. It's when I needed cash. I had something that I knew was a deal that I didn't want to flip because the margin was just a little bit light. I probably got a little bit too aggressive on the prices. I could have wholesaled a lot more to landlords, et cetera. But I wasn't an expert. I didn't until I became a wholesaler, I didn't respect the amount of work and the uniqueness of the business plan. Right. So, I was a terrible wholesaler. So for me, it would have been better to not even try to build a buyer's list, to just go ahead and pass it over to somebody that did specialize in selling properties to landlords at a discount. Right. Because I would have made more money. I would have spent a heck of a lot less time. And I probably would have been able to capitalize a little bit more if I spent some time understanding what, they were looking for. They were able to move, what landlords were looking for, et cetera. Right. But I was passing off landlord deals in the Houston market at the time. It was 85% is what, you could get. I was passing them off at 78, 80%, right? Which isn't bad, right? But at the same time, somebody that specializes in dispositions could have, saved me a lot of effort, and then maybe made me a little bit more money, right? Which in most cases they probably could have, right? Yeah, and the more valuable piece was my time. Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're flipping, right? You could have spent more time getting more deals, right? Versus having to worry about selling a deal, right? Right, exactly. And so, that's the thing with when you're getting into this. So, our thing is, we put together some steps, like what are some of the things you need to do to build a buyer's list. And so, with me, my first one was networking. Right. And so I don't know about everyone else's city, but in Houston, there is a networking meeting probably just about every night. Oh, right. and also, I mean, that's great advice, actually. So if you're a new entrepreneur, you're just starting out, you're trying to save money for marketing. Right. You could eat every night here in Houston. Yeah, every single night you can go get some. I mean, even at ours, like if you come to, we have ours the first Monday of each month, and we got some meatballs that are like they were kicking even harder before. They got a little bit different gravy this time. Yeah, but they still kick hard, right? And so you can eat and drink sometimes every single night. And I noticed that when I first got started. That's probably why I put on like 20, 30 pounds when I first started in this business. We had, I remember the meatballs weren't there one night, and we had like damn near a riot. Yeah. It was like, where did the meatballs go? But yeah, so networking. So how do you find these networking meetings? Meetup, Facebook. You could go to Eventbrite here in Houston. I mean, they're out there. You gotta look for them. Yeah. Yeah, so in any one of those, we'll find them. So the next thing is like
So most of these meetups that you go to, there may be an event, but it may be like a classroom type setting. Yeah, so classroom type of setting. Now, do you just go to the meetup, sit down and listen to what's going on, and then you just leave? Is that how it works?
Well, for me, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna go to the bar and I'm gonna hang out there.
That sounds about right.
Anybody. You maybe go stand on the corner.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do when I'm there.
Right.
But no, absolutely, you're working the room.
Yeah.
So it's person to person. Maybe not so much what can you do for me, but it's what can I do for you.
Right.
How can I help you hit your goals, et cetera? What are your goals? Focus on them.
Yeah.
Get their information, then follow up the next day. Yeah.
That's the key right there. Follow up the next day. Right. If you do all that work and you don't follow up, they forget about you. Right. Yep. And how many times you opened your email and you got like tons of deals coming into it. Right. I'm only going to look at the person that I spent time with and I built a relationship with and that took the time to give me a call. Right. Mm-hmm. Probably not even, there's quite a few I don't even look at. Right. So you got to spend some time afterwards. Right. So it's not spend all your time with one person while you're at that meetup. Go talk to a lot of people and then call those people later. Right. Yep.
3 to 5 minutes, move on to the next person.
Yeah. Because you want to work the room. And so, so that's how it actually started for me. My first one, there was a meetup in Houston. I had got my, this was actually my second property. I wish I would have did this for my first one. But my second property, went to a meetup and they had a thing called a deal a minute. Right. So for those who hadn't been to a meetup, it's time for anybody that has a deal, get up and basically for a minute, get a chance to talk about your property. And so they said that. And I was like, OK, I wasn't really prepared, but I said, OK, let me write this stuff down. I knew what my ARV and all that was. Got up, talked about it. And I told anybody that's interested, I was going to be showing it because I had put it on Bigger Pockets and all these different places. And so anyone that wanted to see it, I said, text me. Right, because I'm gonna be showing it at 12 o'clock. Well, my phone just blew up, and of course, now that I know what I know, that if your phone melts from buyers, what just happened?
You sold it too cheap.
You sold it too cheap, and so I get there, and it's like a riot. The guy from Bigger Pockets shows up like mafia. By the time he gets there, I've already sold this thing, right? And so, but it did. I was able to get some active buyers on my buyers list because if most of the time if a buyer actually shows up, then they're probably active.
Right.
Okay. But I was able to add people on my buyers list from networking. So if you're not doing that, get out, set a goal for yourself. I know that, you have to work, but they have these things at lunchtime. They have them at nighttime. What we did was set up a schedule for the month. You can look at what's going on, set a time to be able to go out and then go out to these meetups. You got to take time to build your buyers list.
Yeah. So we set up a calendar in the office. Mm-hmm. So we have a calendar on the wall that shows every networking event for that month and, who's going to go to it. So we've gotten away from that.
Right.
But, when we were doing that, it was extremely
we were at every
productive for us to know who was where. And, it kind of became a competition for the team to see who was going to be at the most events.
Right.
Waving the flag, if you will.
Yeah. So that's number one. You got to get out and you got to network. So next thing is Facebook groups. Okay. So one thing I will say about Andy is that he is instrumental at lurking on Facebook. And I'm not saying lurking for not creeping. He's not creeping for girls, but he's pretty damn good at creeping for deals. Right. And so I don't know how many you did, but I know like last year we might have did over $274,000 in deals that came from you. I don't know if they didn't all come from you lurking on Facebook, yeah. But a good majority of the relationship started with you lurking on Facebook.
Right. So what I did was I took one of the better groups where deals are being posted here in Houston as a buyer. So I wasn't looking for people to buy our deals. Mm-hmm. We have had several people come from Facebook that have bought our deals. But I changed the settings to where that group shows up first whenever somebody posts something. So when I open up Facebook, sometimes I have to scroll 4 or 5 times to get past that group. Mm-hmm. If I hadn't been on all day. But I wanted to see deals as soon as they pop up, so we had the opportunity to buy.
Right. Yeah. And so that's a way of getting in front of the buyers. So if you have a property already and you want to start building your buyers list, you can let that deal start building a buyers list for you. So you can put it on things like Facebook groups in your area, and people can start calling you. And then if they start messaging you, go ahead and get their contact information, call them and fill them out and see if they are real buyers, right? Because the last thing you want to start doing is just throwing these people on your buyers list and you hadn't qualified this person, right? Because we've run into some issues where we've had people on our buyers list that they really weren't buyers. They were maybe daisy chainers. Right. And so check back a couple of episodes. You don't know what a daisy chainer is, but they will cause some trouble if they're on your buyers list. Right. Yep. So really vet them. Make sure that you have the right people on your buyers list.
So it's interesting. When I first started and I didn't have a buyers list, I had a deal that we needed to sell. So, I was partnering with my brother at the time. He went and posted it up on Facebook and he was fishing for buyers. He's like, hey, who's interested in a deal in this area? This amount, he got 3 or 4 responses. Yeah. So I went on the same groups where he posted, and I just went through the last year and pulled every single email of somebody that they commented on, a deal that they were interested in. So then it was, hey, let's send them an email, see if we can get them on the phone, talk to them about their goals and potentially our deal. Right.
Yeah, and if you didn't get that, that was golden right there. I did the exact same thing with Nelsa. And Nelsa is one of our VAs, and that's exactly what she did. I had her go back in history for every single person that's ever posted about that, and there you go. You can go ahead and start building your buyers list. The main thing, though, is contact them.
Yeah, you got to contact them.
You got to contact them because, it's about half of them are going to be wholesalers, and then the other half, maybe a quarter of that is going to be people that are not even in the business anymore. Depends on how far you go.
Yeah, half will be wholesalers. 90% of them will be out of business. Yeah, if it's a year later. Right. But you are going to find some buyers that way.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what you're looking for is a core group of 10. Right. Because last time I checked, every property we sell, we only sell to one buyer.
Yeah. I've never sold a property to more than one person.
No, that usually doesn't happen. Right. So all you got to do is find a core group of buyers and you're good to go. Okay. Right.
So this is something that, that's number 2 is Facebook, and be cautious again, who you're talking with. When you do put your deal out there, you do run the risk of people going around you. It's our policy now in-house that we don't put anything on Facebook unless we're securing the deal. And, we know for a fact that even if somebody does go around us, talk to the seller, that that it's all going to end up well. Something that you've done that's unique, or I guess maybe it was unique, maybe not so much anymore, but still not enough people know about it, is the county data that's available to you. So you want to talk about how you use that?
So county data. So in most cities, you can go into the county clerk's office, not into the county clerk's office, but you can go right online and you can pull like any cash transactions that are happening from other. And I can tell you what we do is that we take some of the bigger wholesalers that we know that are double closing. We go right in and we basically just grab their buyers.
Yeah, right. Everybody, you're going to double close.
Right. So all you got to do is we find the LLC that they're buying in. Right. And we, from there, you pull the county record from there. So you put in their information. It'll spit out everything they've ever sold, and then pull up the document. It'll tell you who they sold to and who bought it. So now you have the buyer. Right. So that's like a ninja trick right there. And now you can leverage their work, so that these people are active buyers. They've actually bought a property before. These aren't just fake buyers at this point. And now you can contact them. And if you haven't looked up an LLC, most skip tracing companies can't look up an LLC. We use one that helps us with that. We use TLO for that. But for the most part, you can Google. Like I always start with Google first, right? Google it. Like for example, just the other day I was looking for, we have a property on the, I forget where it's on the north side of Houston. And so I Googled it and it was like, it had the initials of somebody. And when I Googled it, I was able to figure, I actually did that twice. And each time it was somebody that was in TG, which was funny, but
really,
yeah, but yeah, you can just Google the information. And if it just has the address of the person, most cases, that person's address is their home. Then go to the county website, put in that address, and you'll get the person's name. Okay, but that's how you look that information up and get both their name.
So what would you do if? So county data is available for us in Harris County. We're one of the larger counties in the U.S. It's available online. Is it worth going down to the county if I think your county doesn't offer online access?
Yeah. So and just this is public data, right?
Right.
So there's a form that you can fill out from any county, and I forget the name of the form, but if you call them and say, hey, I want to be able to get the public data, they're going to tell you need to fill this form out. You can take that form to them and you can pull it directly from them. So if you have to go, if your county doesn't have that, just figure out how to get down there and pull the data. It's usually going to be at some type of county clerk's office that you're able to pull
some
that.
Some type of county clerk's. Yeah. It's at the county clerk's office, right?
Well, I mean, if you're in Louisiana, it's a parish or something like that, then it may be a little bit different. Okay. But here we're county clerk's office, or talk to some other wholesalers to figure out, and they usually will have the answer for you. And guess what we got at the end of the day? Back to Facebook. Jump on the Facebook group and say, hey, anybody in whatever city you're at, how do you pull this information from the county? And someone want to have that information. Just reach out.
Okay.
So
that's a nugget right there. So right. Number 4, building a buyer's list. What would you do?
Number 4. We're on MLS. I would say that that's the answer right there.
Okay.
All right. Now, this is going to take you getting some MLS access. Okay. So whether you have a friend that's a realtor or something like that can, possibly get you on as maybe like an assistant or apprentice that will give you access to it. That's one way of doing it. This is our podcast, so I can tell you that we have other ways of doing it. I ain't ashamed to tell you, I had a friend that just said, here you go. Here's my password. I'm not a realtor, so doesn't matter. I can tell you. But basically what we do is...
Disclaimer, this was back in the day. Yeah, this is no longer now. Undrea does not have MLS access.
This did not just happen yesterday, by the way. All right. So this one I'm really excited about, right? So we've talked about this. We've done it. Now that we have the manpower to be able to do it with our Dispo Junior, this will really get your assignment fee up there, right? Because we saw this happening from a deal that we had a few years back, where a landlord that was in the neighborhood ended up buying the property, and this guy would have paid. Of course, he paid a lot more than any other investor paid, right, because no other investors even looked at this thing, right? We thought it was going to be a dead deal. But this guy was just right down the street. He buys properties only in his neighborhood. And he just walked down the street and found and say, hey, I want to buy this property because I got one right down the street and another one down the street.
He owned the house 2 doors down and he lived a couple streets over.
Yeah. So it was perfect for him. So we found that why not just do this for every property that we get? Right. So the simple way of doing this is you go into your local MLS, log in, and what you're going to look for is any cash transaction that has happened around your area. Yeah. Right. That's number 1. And so how do you do it? Once you pull up the cash transactions, we usually start, 6 months back at least. All right. So we know that they've purchased and they're probably finished with the rehab, but they may want another one, whatever. But you're going to have the buyer's name, right? Start there first and call them directly. Right. So if you don't know how to find their information, again, Google will help you with that. For a quick, without having to go into TLO, because TLO and all the other ones will cost you money, you can use some of the free services, like we use Fast People Search, which is really easy to use. You can use White Pages.
I use that'sdem.com.
That'sdem.com. Any one of those, use all 3 until you find their information. But the same thing, you skip trace them through there for free and then give them a call. Right. And then if you need to go further, you can look for other services to be able to do that. And then if you can't reach them from there, the next thing is the realtor is going to be listed right there with their phone number. Yeah. So that's the other thing. Call the realtor and say, hey, see if your client, don't try to go around the realtor because they're not going to let you go around them anyway.
Right.
Say, hey, if you're, just give me a call. We have a house right down the street. Just seeing if your client that bought the house on 123 Main Street would be interested in buying any other properties.
Yeah, or any other client.
Yeah, or any other client, right? And I mean, they're going to win anyway because they're going to get some commission for making this happen, right? Now that after you talk to them, one thing I would say is, because this is the mistake I made the first time that I did it, my first deal, is I didn't tell the realtor to put their money on top, right? Make whatever they want to make, right? And especially if you have a $300,000 deal, and now you got 3% coming out, you gave away your $9,000 commission. Yeah, you gave away your assignment fee. So just tell them to put their money on top, and that way that they get paid whatever they want to get paid. So if they want to get paid $9,000, put $9,000 on top of the deal. Is basically the way that works.
So we did this just naturally when we were buying in condos.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't have the capacity. We only had one dispo, our dispo manager. So we really didn't have the capacity to build a system around this and do it consistently.
Right.
But we did find that, once we started doing this in complexes where, it's just a condo complex, right? Or whatever community, that there were multiple people that owned several units in that complex. And so there was, we would always call them and see if they were interested in that and another one. And odds are, the discount that we were passing on to our investors was better than they were getting when they were buying retail.
Right.
What's crazy about buyers, and, we have this thing, and it's called integrity. So we don't lie about what we believe the values are. We don't lie about the repairs. We do allow people to make their own assessments because there are some people that are insistent that they can get things done cheaper.
Right.
I don't know where they buy their material, but they insist that they can get it done. Okay, that's fine. You can. I think it's a $40,000 rehab. If you think you can get done for 30, that's fine.
Right.
But you're finding somebody that doesn't expect the same discount. So when you're marketing, like when I was a flipper, I would, look for a certain price range to get away from the landlord buyers and the wholesalers, et cetera. There was some things where I couldn't get away from that.
Right.
But if I'm looking in a very specific geographic area for my house that I want to buy, odds are I may be willing to pay more because that's what's important to me is the location. So the more that you're willing to do the work, and this is why I say that dispositions may be better left to somebody that has the capacity to really build it out and drive that value.
Right.
What a house is worth is what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Right. Yeah. And that's pretty much the market.
If I want to buy, like the guy that bought the house on Rockhurst that you were talking about, he owned one 2 doors down. That's where he wanted to buy. And so he's been trolling the MLS for a number of years. It may take him 5 years to get the certain number of houses that he wants.
But he doesn't care.
Yeah. I'll pay an extra $5,000 because that just means that I get what I want.
Right.
$5,000 to us at the end of the day is when you multiply that times 150 deals, that's a phenomenal impact, and it's just straight to the bottom line.
Yeah.
So we did it just naturally with the condos, and we were finally able to bring that over to everything. And it doesn't happen every time.
Right. No, but at the same time, you're building your buyers list, right?
Right.
And you're talking to people that are going to be your potential buyers. Maybe not today, but maybe they'll be a buyer, next month or in your next deal, right? Another step to that, outside of just talking to your cash transactions with the MLS and leasing with the matrix, you can click on the properties around it and see if they're absentee owners. That would be the other thing. Check the ones around it. Maybe they didn't just buy in the last 6 months or so, but you can see if you have any absentee owners around in the area that have bought the property as well. So I would look at that because it could be that they never put the property up. They could have done everything by themselves, did for sale by owner, sold the property by themselves, maybe through Zillow or something like that, or for sale by owner. So check those as well because those could be potential buyers for you as well. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then actually I'm going to tack one onto that for the MLS because we did have one right down the street, my puzzle lady.
Yeah.
The lady always called me about puzzles.
Horseshoe did?
Yeah, Horseshoe. Yeah. When you're checking rental comps, if you see a property manager that perhaps they have a relationship with, they're that realtor that maybe, and it's beneficial to them, right? Because they get if their customer buys it, then they get the $100 a month or $200 a month, whatever they have for their property management fees. So
and their other upcharge fees when they fix something.
Exactly. It was $400 to fix the dryer. Wait, we have a dryer in there?
Yeah, where did that come from?
I didn't know we had a washer and dryer in that house. All right, so what else we got? So that MLS is number 4.
Right. And this is another free one. All right, is driving a neighborhood, right? So especially if you're new to this business, one of your things you're probably going to be doing is driving for dollars anyway, right? So while you're driving through some of the neighborhoods that you're looking to purchase in, or if you have a property in it, look for those investors that are flipping properties right now. Because if that investor bought it from a wholesaler, and now they have a dumpster outside, they're not necessarily going to be on the MLS, right? Because we don't put our things on the MLS. The other thing is that the county tax information sometimes is, at least in Harris County, is a little slow.
Yep.
You won't even see that's changed yet, right? So one thing to do is if you see those dumpsters outside, stop. Find out what's going on there. Find out if this is just a flipper, which most cases that's the indication that this is either a flipper or a landlord, and find out who the owner is and reach out to them. right? They may not be there. If they are there, there may be a good thing because they're probably a little small flipper who would like to get their next deal pretty quick, but and maybe not doing any marketing. But that's just a quick way of building some buyers that are right in the neighborhood of the property that you're selling. Okay?
Yep, absolutely.
So that's just a quick tip there.
So dumpsters, one more I'll add on to that is the permit notification in the windows.
Yeah.
So even if there's not a dumpster there, you see that. I don't know what it would be in your city. Find out what it looks like, and if you do see the permit sticker in the window, that means somebody's actively working on that house.
Right. There you go. And so all the ones we talked about up until now were the free ways of being able to do it, right? So there's a couple of paid ways to be able to do this, right? And so we're going to start with bandit signs. So this is something that it would get your phones ringing. You'll still get the nasty phone calls, but if you don't know what a bandit sign is, Google it. As simple as that. But
check the laws in your area.
Yeah, check the laws in your area. We're not attorneys, blah blah blah. But the thing is that you can surround the property that you're selling with signs that's saying that you have a 3-2 whatever house that you're looking to sell, right? I know some of the larger wholesaling disposition companies, that's one way that their dispositions, probably one of the main ways that their dispositions build their massive buyers list is through bandit signs. Okay. You can get just a regular 12 by 18 bandit sign, stick it in the ground. You need at least 30 for each property. And your phone will start to melt.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, the key, that's one way to generate buyers. You know, we've already gone through 5.
Right.
The key is the relationship.
Yeah.
So if you don't know their name, if they don't know your name, if you haven't had a 5-minute conversation with them,
right.
Ideally more.
Right.
But if you don't have the time, 5 minutes, and then I'll plug this in there. One thing that drives me nuts is, I call a lot of bandit signs. So I get added to several buyers lists. And then when they send, I get to know them, the person. And then when they send me a deal, it has the name of their company. I have no idea who that is at that point. So if you open up my email right now, you'll see at least 100 properties that have been emailed to me from wholesalers that I have no idea who the company is or how I got on that list. Cause I do put my email on Facebook every now and again if I'm interested in a property. Right. But I don't even look at it anymore because it just feels like spam over and over again. I get 20 a day. Right. And so for the last 5 days, I've gotten behind on checking those deals. They don't mean anything to me. Don't give me the company name. Nobody cares about your company name. Right.
So that's key right there. Right. So you're saying in the subject line, put in.
Well, in the sender's name.
Oh, in the sender's name.
In the sender's name, it has whatever house buyers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't.
Right.
You don't know what that is. I'm going to move on to the next one. It feels like spam.
Right.
So, and if it came from a guy that I just talked to a few days ago or a month ago, I ran into a guy at a networking event on Tuesday. I talked to him like 6 months ago off a bandit sign. Right. And so he caught it first. He's like, oh man, I talked to you. It's like, oh shoot, you're the, and I remember the conversation right then. If I got a name, like some people don't even know our company name. Yeah. Right. And you're doing business with a person, right? Not a company. So the branding is BS.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to also, because I can tell you that's the mistake I made in the beginning, because the only email address I had was dracoproperties@gmail, right? And like Andy said, who knows who that is, right? If I just talk to somebody. So it's really easy to jump into any of the GoDaddies or any one of those and grab you a domain with your name, with maybe your company afterwards. So at least the person can recognize you when the property comes over, and put your face on it, right? And the inside. So once they open it, they're able to maybe get a chance to see who you are at the same time. But the first thing, like Andy said, they got to open it first. So if he hadn't opened it, he's never gonna get to your face. So that's another quick ninja tip there. So last one for paid, there's a bunch of services that you can go to. If you just put in Google finding cash buyers, we use REWW, Find Cash Buyers Now. There's some other cash buyers now type of websites that you can subscribe to. These are going to run you somewhere between $99 to $200 a month, but they've done the work for you, right? So they've done the work. It may not be as organic as getting it yourself, but it does give you a chance to look in your area and start calling those people, start mailing them, and start having conversations with those people. If I was pulling a list like that, that's basically what I would do. I would take that list, skip trace it, call them. I would send them mail just like you would send anything else, and then have conversations with them, like Andy just said, so that you can build a relationship and start building your buyers list from there.
Absolutely. Okay?
So hopefully those steps help. When we look at building your buyers list and what it can cost you if you don't have, a buyers list, is the opportunity cost is just, it's crazy what it could cost you if you don't have a strong buyers list.
Right? The time is what you miss out on the most. You're going to miss out on, like when you were doing it versus when, we hired Daniel. It was, say we averaged $100,000 on a property. It was a 3% increase. So that's $3,000 on every property that we did, times that by 100. That's $300,000. Yeah. That's a massive impact to the bottom line. Mm-hmm. So but still your opportunity cost is your time when you're new. Yeah. So if you can't afford to pay an REWW for cash buyers now, then skip trace and start talking to them, look into, working with somebody in your market. Mm-hmm. There's several wholesalers in Houston that have, pretty sizable buyers lists and great relationships. I'm sure in your market there would be as well, whatever market you may be in. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, I would have done that because it would allow me to focus on my time, which is my most valuable asset, on something that was going to drive revenue, and not necessarily for me be a distraction. And quite honestly, something I didn't like.
Right. So how does the person, because most of our listeners are going to be in that category, right? They're still in that beginning stage and they're building their buyers list. How do they find that type of wholesaler? How do they reach out to them?
Networking. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to go get somewhere, ask who, the players are in town. I'd ask some questions about integrity. Right. What is their reputation like? Because usually, mm-hmm. People's reputations are an indication of how they do business. Right. Talk to buyers. What other wholesalers are you working with? Who mm-hmm. have you heard of? And it's really just getting out there and talking to people. Right. I mean, you could go on the Facebook groups, et cetera, and ask those types of questions. Right.
And so what should they expect though from, because I know there's some buyers that just blast, some people who go out. So what should they expect from that wholesaler on executing on the deal?
What do you mean?
So like the first time I went to someone, they were just going to just blast my deal. But then I go and take care of everything else, right? So, and then there are some wholesalers that just pay it's
a case by case. Right. I would, I don't know that you bring a whole lot of value to the conversation unless you do have a deal. Mm-hmm. You can go to them before you have a deal. Right. But if you're not even marketing yet, I wouldn't go waste somebody's time. That's just me personally. Yeah. Because I want to leverage as much as I can, at the right time. So I'm not going to go use up a whole bunch of political capital to get favors from you, and then after the fact, then come to you with a deal. I'm going to bring a deal, that way I have some leverage, mm-hmm. and talk to you about it and see what we could work out. Right. Yeah, and you said something that kind of hit home, is that, because we run into this all the time, is that the first thing, go get a deal. Yeah. Right. Go get a deal, because I did it in the beginning. I see people like new wholesalers that do it. They're talking as, let's say I'm the buyer and mm-hmm. they're telling me like, so what are you looking to buy? Blah, blah, blah. Like you literally forget about that person the moment they walk away. Right. Right. Because when someone walks up and says they have a deal, they catch my ear, right? Mm-hmm. And then I do some research and like, oh, that ain't no deal. Then you're right back at it. You're right back at it, right? But at least they caught my eye for a little bit. And that's the same thing with buyers. You figure all the buyers are at the meetup, they're getting hit left and right. Mm-hmm. They raise their hand, yeah, I'm a buyer. And then everyone's, all the wholesalers are hitting them up. So what kind of, what are you looking to buy? What the first thing that every buyer asks me is, what do you have now that I can look at? Right? Yeah. And if I don't have anything, that drives me nuts. When I call a bandit sign, and I tell them I'm a buyer, I'm asking if they have any inventory. If it is a, what do you call it? An answering service, right? That answers it. Drives me mad.
That's how we met.
Because they have,
with Pat Live.
They have, and you probably heard the recording too. Because they'll ask you all those questions. It's like, what area are you buying, and how many bed? The first question that I called one yesterday. The first question that she asked is, how many bedrooms are you looking for? Like, don't.
And they had a VA doing it.
I was like, look, my name's Andy. This mm-hmm. is my number. Just please have the dispositions manager or somebody from the company give me a call when they're available. Right. And I cut that off real quick because she asked that, and then I said, it really doesn't matter. I'm just looking to see what inventory they have. And she said, well, like what part of town or something. It's like, look, I will buy in Egypt if it's the right price. Like
Right.
it doesn't matter where it is.
Right.
There's not a property in the U.S. that I wouldn't buy for $1.
Right. Yeah.
So let's just figure it out. You know, there's some areas where I would pay more.
Yeah, I agree. And I would take out this other one. I got one more rant on that. Javier, get me right here. All right. This is my rant. All right. Because I had this happen several times from VAs on this is whatever you do, change this script right here. Because this is the script I got several times. And the script was, I know this call is out of the blue. Oh, like God. Immediately, any investor that hears that is like, it's a VA, right? And you're like, click. Every once in a while, I test them to see how good they are, right? Yeah. Like, so if you are using that statement as a wholesaler in 2020, that was so 2017. Drop it. There we go. That was my rant.
Yeah.
So don't use that definitely in your buyer's list. I had that the last time I think we were walking to a Mexican restaurant. Someone called me with that same exact thing for a buyer's list.
You know, I know this call is out of the blue, but
it's like, okay, that was so 2017. We appreciate John Martinez for coining that one.
Yeah.
But everybody's worn that one out.
I got a call the other day from Diego's company, actually. Mm-hmm. And they were saying that I had a conversation with somebody that I've never met.
Right.
Never talked to, whatever. And it just happened to be his company. And so I knew 100% that I had not had a conversation with him. It's like, man, so I need to call him and be like, look, man, you're telling your cold callers to lie to people.